everybody. Sean Malloy, your Central North Carolina Whitetail Properties land specialist, and I hope you're doing well. Hey, welcome to my farm, Patriots Landing, and I'm out here today. It's the 3rd day of February 2018, and we're doing some soil samples on our new food plots. I'm going to spin this camera around, so bear with me. Kind of show you what we did here. We took about 48 acres of timber, and with that timber gone, we reclaimed some old tobacco fields, and we're in the process of turning these into food plots. And this one, after it was grubbed out, we put oats in it. I put a ton of lime per acre and a little bit of fertilizer to get it going. And so it came up pretty good. The deer are in here quite frequently. They're munching out on all the food, and that's what we want them to do. But today we're getting ready for our spring planting, and I'm actually going to plant this month. I know February sounds a little early to be planting stuff, but I'm going to put it in some white clover and some chicory and maybe a little red clover in here. And I'm actually going to work up this soil, but before I do that, I want to get my soil samples done and then augment the soil, till that stuff in, and that'll help condition the soil, and then put the seeds in, and then wait for Mother Nature to heat the ground up and raise all that stuff up come late March, early April. It'll give the food plot a head start, and then later on this year you'll see the whole transformation of this food plot, because right now it's just an open field, but I'm going to take this and put some Egyptian wheat and switchgrass mixed in with it, and actually sculpt this food plot to where I can put a elevated blind behind me to bow hunt out of and get deer to come in to within bow range. And so we're pretty excited. We've got 3 new fields. 2 of them are going to be like this one, and then I have another main field down here that's going to be the nutritional plot. It'll be late season hunting really only. It's a 2-acre field, and we're going to put some soybeans in there, and really that's just a place for the deer to go and scamper around, have a good meal all the way through the winter with standing beans. But these other 2 plots are smaller, and they'll actually be hunted, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Just to let you know how this food plot's oriented, as you see, the sun is in my face, so west is pretty much that direction, and of course east is behind me, and up the hill there and into those trees on the other side, about let's say about 400 yards from here, is our house. So we'll be able to access this on a good west wind with all the scent blowing back to the house. Have a box blind here up on the behind me where the gator is, and channel those deer into this food plot, and that's the plan. So anyway, we're going to get started today, like I said, with the soil samples, get those sent off to the state lab, get the results back, and go from there. And you will follow along with me the whole step. So let's get started. Well, hey, first thing I want to show you is kind of the tools we use. Of course, we have our box, and before we get started, I usually fill all this stuff out. It's hard to see in the light, but I do all my printing and stuff before I put soil in here. It makes it a lot easier, and plus it helps me stay organized with what plot I'm in, and make sure I don't get the wrong sample in the wrong box. So we're just gonna close this up and get it ready for duty here, and then I'm going to show you some of my my tools that I use. A lot of people use different tools. Some of them are very expensive, and some of them are not. This one is a pro planting tool, and it's made to put flower bulbs in the ground, and I keep it pretty clean. And you see it's hollow on the inside, so once you get it plugged, you can just tap it down and the dirt will come out into the bucket, which is the next thing I have. I have a clean bucket that I use to put the soil in, so that we don't have any contaminants in this bucket, which will throw off our soil sample results. Take a screwdriver just in case I get some mud clogged up in my my plugger here, and that helps out a little bit. And then I use a little hand rake here to stir that soil up, mix it up real good, and then it also allows me to break up dirt clods without getting my hands all muddy. So those are the tools we're going to use. A plot this size is an acre. I'm probably going to take at least a dozen little plugs, and we'll put them in there. Since this field is not tilled up, it's never been tilled, or if you're using a field that's a no-till drill, you'll only want to do a soil sample down about 4 inches. However, if you're doing a field that has been turned over and is being turned over for planting, they recommend about 8 inches going down. So this is perfect. It'll actually go to about 8 inches real easily, but you can see right there where it's all scratched up. That's about 4 inches, and that's about as far as I go. So come on out here in the field and we'll get started and start getting some dirt in the bucket. Let's go. Okay, hey, there you are. We're going to take our first sample here in the center and just kind of give you a feel for what to do, but it's not rocket science, guys. Anybody can do this. And you don't have to have this. You can do it with a spade and do it all by hand. But just find a good clean place where there's no sticks or twigs, or you don't want to plug it right on top of a piece of living organism or whatever. So put it right there. And again, I just twist it till I'm about 4 inches in the ground. Pull it up, and then come over here with my bucket and put a nice little clod in there. And then I'll use these tools to break that clod up and mix it all together. So now the fun begins. I'm going to do about a dozen or so plugs in here and then mix it all up. So stay tuned and watch this. It's pretty exciting stuff. Not really, but you get the gist. Oh, there you are, getting all this work done. I thought you didn't want to get your hands dirty, so anyway, here we are. This is what it looks like. We have our little plugs here. So now we're going to take them and break them up. This is where the little hand rake here, whatever you call this little device, it's really beneficial to break these clods up. As I'm going through here, if I see any debris like sticks and twigs and stuff like that, I try to throw that out as I go. And then you're going to have some dirt clods that just won't break up because they're hard clay or wet. This is very wet, and that's another thing. The lab doesn't want really wet soil to deal with or run tests. So if it's terribly wet, you may want to put it in your bag or your box and let it sit for a little while with the lid off and dry out before you submit it. Otherwise, they're not going to be too happy with you. So you see it's starting to break up pretty good now, and we'll just keep working it up until we're done. Some organic matter there. Okay, now we're finished with the mixing it up. Now we're going to take our box, and you see it's got a red line right here. So they don't want you to fill it above this. So here's the technique I'd use. I mix this up, put a little bit in the box. I mix it up some more, put a little bit in the box. And then I shake it. And as I'm shaking it, I'm looking for dirt clods, clumps. I throw them out, and I try to really get as fine a dirt inside as I can. Also pulling out any organic matter. Like in this case, I've got a lot of sticks on the ground, and I might have some sawdust chips where they cut the trees down. So I'll just generally in here, get some in here. I'll scoop it up by hand, kind of shift it out, pull it in, and then just kind of knead it out. And as I'm doing it, organic matter and stuff just kind of naturally floats up to the top. So you want to take time with that, because that stuff there it could affect your soil sample. May make it seem a little more acidic. There's some more organic matter. So there's a couple dirt clods. I'll take those out. So then I'll rake it up some more. This way I'm making sure I'm getting a good representation of my food plot. Get some of that loose dirt and put it in. Dirt clod I want to take out. And just toss it around. Stuff just, like I said, just magically comes to the top. So little clods. Again, trying to get as fine a soil so it compacts down in here nicely, so we're not getting a bunch of clumps like that. Vigorously continue to work your soil. So give the scientist at the lab lots of good dirt to work with. Like I said, it's not rocket science. You just got to take the time to do it and do it to the best of your ability. And this is probably the best and most important step that you can take when planning your food plots for success. A lot of people skip this step and they wonder why this stuff doesn't grow, and they blame it on the seed manufacturer, and really it's just their laziness. The other important step is when and how you plant and your site preparation, and we'll cover that in another video. But you see we're getting some nice fine soil in there. See that pretty nicely. I'm going to put a little bit more in here, and then I like to shake it down so that it's compacted really good. I give them plenty of soil to work with, and I've also given a good representation of my food plot, of the soil that can be found here. There's a stick, pull that out, piece of bark, another twig, root, dirt clod. All right, so we're right at that fill line. So now I'll seal this up. I even got instructions. Close number 1, close number 2, and then fold over and seal. That's all there is to it. And having it already pre-labeled, I don't have to worry about it, knowing where I'm at and filling this out later. So on to the next fields. We're going to finish those up, and then we're going to fill out our paperwork when we get back in the house that goes along with this before you send it to the lab. So we'll see you inside the house. Oh, hey everybody, back in the house here. Got my soil samples in the boxes, and ended up with 8 soil samples today. And like I said, it's always better to pre-fill out your box before you go out, so you're not trying to write on these boxes after you got soil in them. I'm filling out my soil sample information sheet to send off to the lab. And over here you see I've got code names for the different areas that we took a sample from. And it's important to establish those code names so that you can be consistent in the years coming and following, you know. So like the power line one is got its own code name, so every soil sample that I save going back all the way to 2012, I can see what was recommended and see how the soil has changed over time. And that's kind of rewarding actually, because you see where your money and your effort are impacting what you're trying to get accomplished. So very important to do that. It asks that you keep up with your lime that you put down for the last 12 months, and it's basically how many tons per acre, and that's for the lab so they know what you've already augmented the soil with. And sometimes, you know, lime takes a while to leach into the soil, and I'm sure they take that in consideration. And they also want the month and year that you do that, so you want to maintain some records as to how much you put down and when you did it in the last 12 months. And then on this form they offer 2 crops, a first crop and a second crop. And for example, I've got the first one up there says clover and grasses, so I'm going to have some clover and chicory in that plot. But then I'm also going to have some switchgrass in that plot. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a second crop. It can be a concurrent crop. So my plan is to have some clover and chicory in the center of this plot and some switchgrass shaping it on the outside and providing cover for deer and wildlife. So that's going to be a concurrent plot. And they also ask you if it's a maintenance type of situation. Maybe you've had clover in there for the last 3 or 4 years, so you're just maintaining that clover. Or if you're trying to establish clover. And in this case, these are new food plots. So I'm trying to establish a new bed of clover, and I'm establishing switchgrass for the first time. So they will calculate what that young plant needs to really mature the first season as much as possible. So that's important for you. Of course, you got your admin data. You want to make sure everything's filled out and your email address is on there correctly, because that's how you're going to get your results. And then from that, you can save a PDF file and put that in your records folder on your computer. They have instructions on the website once you get your soil report. If you don't know how to read it, you can look at that, or you can call them and they'll talk you through it. Another thing you can do is if you're using a seed company and you're planting a certain blend that might not be actually specified in your picks of crops that's on the back of this form, you can send them the results via email, and then they can look at that field and what it needs compared to what what they recommend for their seed and the plant that you're trying to grow with them. So that pretty much rounds it out. Right now, December through March, of course this is February, it's the peak season for soil testing. So North Carolina charges $4 per sample. So I've got 8 samples, $32, and to me that's well worth that little bit of cost to get an excellent soil report that I can use and maintain and archive. So that's it. If you have any questions, anything I can help you out with, don't hesitate to shoot me a message or drop me an email at sean.malloy@whitetailproperties.com, and I'll be more happy to try to assist. I'm not an expert and I don't know everything, but I know a little bit and I can get you pointed in the right direction. And if I don't have the answer, I can definitely point you in the right direction to get that answer. So anything I can do to help you be successful will be great. And again, as usual, I appreciate you joining me at Patriots Landing. And we'll see you in the field chasing turkeys in a couple months. So take care and thanks for joining me. I got to finish filling out this paperwork. So you all have a good rest of the winter. And I wish I didn't have to wear glasses, but that's just the way it is when you get old.